Welcome to the Susan Brender Show. It's all about you. Featuring shows on health and wellness, the performing arts, politics, and people who inspire you to be your very best. And now, here's Susan Brender.
Today I have a very interesting guest. Now, there is a definite ingredient you need if you want your dreams to come to life. You need to live your life with the sole purpose to defy reality. Today, my guest is a success catalyst and known as Dr. Success. She's the founder, curator, and author of Don't Die, Self-Development Collection of Books. Her latest book is Don't Die, Waiting to Be Brave. As an expert in applied positive psychology, she's your success Sherpa, guiding you as you climb the mountain of success. I want to welcome to my show Andrea Goeglein. My first question to you is going to resonate with the audience, so let me ask it to you. Now, you've been involved as a coach for many, many years. How did you get involved in that?
You know, it's very interesting, Susan. One of the things that I never refer to myself as is really a coach. What I see myself as and know that my work represents is a success catalyst. And I lovingly will say of myself that coaches are actually much nicer people than I am.
Oh.
Because when someone, you know, I say it lovingly, but it is lovingly the truth about the work that I do. I work with people who already have accomplished at some level in their life. And when they come to work with me, it is generally to elevate themselves to the next level of success or to be reminded of the qualities they had that got them to the level of success before. It's that process of being reminded. So they already come to me with a foundation, and my work with them is giving them a new set of tools, a new set of perspective based in their natural strengths. Many times we skip over those on our way to success. And then when they come to me, we pause, take an assessment of what are your natural strengths and how do we build forward on the foundation you've already built.
Yeah. Now, you say in your bio that there is a definite ingredient you need if you want your dreams to come to life. Let's talk about what that means and tell us a story, perhaps, where somebody that you influenced made their dream come true.
Okay. So I love to work multi-generationally. So I'll give you one where my process with the person was actually as their mentor. And it was a young man by the name of Jeff Jordan, who has a company called the Rescue Social Change Group, SCG. I met Jeff at 16. He had drive to become the president. His initial goal was to become the president of Future Business Leaders of America. Over the course of the next 10 years, by the time he was in college, he already surpassed anything I could have hoped for him. Today, he runs a social change marketing group helping teens not enter into the use of tobacco, not enter into the use of alcohol. And he helps the government, schools, all sorts of organizations get that message out in a way that actually has impact. Right. Now, on the business side, I've had the pleasure of working with people who a person right now I've been working with for the last, a male. So entrepreneurial, started a company, brought it to $100 million, took it public. Through the host of everything with the Great Recession, needed to reinvent himself. And we work to see where is the best place. And for him, it was the first time. This is a person with an MBA out of one of the thoroughbred schools. This is a person who obviously took a company public. But what happens when something goes wrong, i.e. the Great Recession and your $100 million company is no longer and someone comes in and takes you over, it's a typical thing that will happen in business. Your confidence, and you forget momentarily what it took collectively for you to get there. So I step in and help them reorganize their success from the perspective of the resilience they had and where are the natural strengths to build forward with.
Andrea, I'll tell you a story. I had a friend who she had a husband. They got married when they were very young, and he really wasn't educated. He didn't have a college degree. And interestingly enough, one of the things that he did have, his strengths, if you will, was in kind of putting together commercials. So he wrote, if you can believe this, he wrote the McDonald's commercial, the first commercial for McDonald's. Now you can imagine what a success that was. And so it's not only about education. That helps. There's no question about it. And don't you agree? I mean, you do.
Correct.
Yeah. But sometimes.
I will tell you, Susan, excuse me one moment. I believe education is a competence builder. It is not an employment certificate. And different behavioral types. I am a person, and I'll speak directly to the strengths aspect of the work that I do. One of my natural strengths is a love of learning. That means, for me, I happen to actually like to attend classes with others to learn. That's representative of the fact that I have 2 master's degrees and a PhD. I am a person who likes to go to school. Absolutely does not signify whether or not I will be an economic success, whether or not I will be able to build companies, none of that. When I take your example of that man, I would suspect that he probably had a natural strength of creativity. That creativity is what he used in order to develop the visual and sound effects that created a successful commercial.
Right. Now, Andrea, let me ask you something. You're talking about the word creativity. Creativity is a very general word. I mean, people understand what creativity means, but for you, I'd like your definition of it.
And when I use the term creativity the way I just did, I would actually be the most comfortable deferring back to the values instrument where they absolutely define that I use in Authentic Happiness what creativity means, but I will step aside from that for a moment because I don't have that exact definition in front of me and just tell you. It is when a person has something naturally in them, and such as you like to write. That doesn't mean you're going to write a book, doesn't mean you're going to write a song, doesn't mean you're going to write a screenplay, but it means you might. And you go about living your life and something inspires you. So the gift is the love of writing. How you put it into a different environment is how you become creative. You take this enjoyment of writing and then you sculpt it into something else. So you're creatively using your attribute. I can say the same thing, love of learning. What's love of learning? Well, it will look like 1,000 things to 1,000 people. If I was a more introverted personality, I may like to learn watching videos. That's different than what I explained that I like. One of my attributes of learning is I like to be with other people physically.
Right.
I get a lot of information from the environment from physically experiencing you. You teach me a lot.
Now, how do people find their potential? Because sometimes they have this skill, as you said, and they can do so many different things with it. But one of the things that I recall is talking to people, and they just don't know that they have the potential for doing something very interesting in their life and finding their purpose. What do you say to that?
Okay. Here's how I know I address that professionally with everyone I work with. The very first thing a person does is go to a website called Authentic Happiness, and they take a free values in action instrument. It's a pretty long test, but it gives them their top 5 strengths. We begin the process of discerning where you should be next by looking at what are your natural strengths. One of my other natural strengths happens to be gratitude, spirituality, and wisdom. I once had a client say to me when his came up, one of his was forgiveness and mercy. How am I ever supposed to be a success in business if I have this attribute? But it's very interesting. What you do is you look at your attributes that have nothing to do with IQ and everything to do with how you like to frame the world, and you begin to see the world from those attributes. So you, in my case, I would look for opportunities to learn things. Once I learn it, I then start thinking, how can I use this in my business? So it becomes a natural progression. Someone who likes to write may not know that they want to write a book, or whether they want to be a copy editor, or whether or not they want to become a virtual speechwriter. But what they know is they have this attribute that may come up as creativity. Mm-hmm. And their creativity comes through their writing, and then you build on it. So you actually start from known attributes that only you are the person answering the questions. Mm-hmm. And you answer the questions, you start seeing how these attributes, unbeknownst to you, have been showing up in your life all along.
Right. Now, there's another thing that I think is really important, and that is that sometimes people feel that they want to pursue their passion. You know, a lot of people love to do certain things, and if you had a client who came to you and said, I want to be a broadcaster, I want to be in communications, I want to work for a TV station, a radio station, that's what I want to do, but you would, they know that that's not an easy thing to get. So would you tell them to continue to pursue their passion, or would you say, figure something else out? What would you say to that?
Okay. So I never tell you, if you come to me and say, this is my passion, I never tell you, don't pursue it. What I do start the conversation, and this is why you have to understand, the people who come to me have been successful at some level. So having a conversation about responsibility while you pursue your passion are not mutually exclusive conversations. So you may have a responsibility to put a roof over your head and to feed you, and maybe you even have multiple responsibilities for a family. You don't get to disregard that level of responsibility to pursue your passion. There are 24 hours in the day. I would first help you discern what's your low water mark. What are your responsibilities that you should not walk away from? Now, how do we find the time for you to continue to develop your craft and get involved in the industry of your desire? So these are not mutually exclusive activities, and that's one of the things that children and young adults get very confused of. They love to throw up to parents, you know, I've got to pursue my passion. Yeah, you also have to feed yourself because I'm done doing that.
Yeah, you're right. Many parents, I'm sure, feel that, and they tell their children just what you said. Yeah, go ahead. But
never would I tell a child, a young adult, not to pursue that passion. I would just hold them accountable, as I do with adults in a different way. You are capable of doing both, taking care of yourself and pursuing your passion. We have to get away from the thought that we are limited in our ability to find solutions to do these things. Because generally the limitation is in our head.
Yeah. Now, there are three things that you said, and one, at least in your bio, you said your dreams will only become real if you learn to defy reality. And then you say you need to make stress your new energy drink, and you need to not die waiting to be brave. Okay, so let's address all these things.
Okay, let's start with the first one, because that statement is actually, do not deny reality, in our example about following your passion. My reality is I am a single mother. I have a child that I'm putting through college at this point, and I also have the dream of being a broadcaster. So I do not deny that reality. Those are the components. However, I will live my life to defy reality. What does that mean? I will find the way to earn income to take care of myself and get my child through school while I find the time to get my training that I need to be in this new area of interest. And I will not give up until I break through it. Now, breakthroughs may look differently But under all circumstances, you will not deny the reality, but you will live your life to defy the reality. So, does stress need to be your new energy drink? You bet. Stress is a word that we have created. Stress actually doesn't exist. We create stress in our mind. So if I begin to build the process that says, I will find the time versus I am overwhelmed, there are certain words, and I use language a lot with my clients. The first level of awareness is watching how you say. If I wake up every day and say I'm tired, if as I'm pursuing my dreams, I'm constantly saying I'm overwhelmed, you will be both tired and overwhelmed. If you don't use that language and you make sure you get enough sleep, whatever that means, it may not mean 8 hours, but it means 6 good ones, and you're not having a cocktail before bed so you don't have disruptor, or you're not eating ice cream, sugar. There's ways that we can take care of ourselves. Oh, yeah. So you do those things, and it is amazing what will happen. Now, along the lines, you may need to study how many people your age broke into the industry at that time. All you need to do is find one and keep your eye on that one. So stress becomes your energy drink in the most positive way. There is a beautiful type of stress. It's eustress, eustress. And it's a positive stress. It's a reaction whenever we are faced with a demand which we can actually handle. And so it's that positive thing, the small pieces of reinforcement, but you're under a lot of pressure to get something done, but you know you can do it, and you're very excited. You bring a lot of energy to the potential of getting it done. And it's one of those things that we should build more of in our life.
Let's talk about Bill Gates for a second.
Okay.
Look what he did. I mean, he made, when you talk about a dream come true and making a fortune doing it,
right.
What was it about, if you would think about Bill Gates, how would what would you say about him? Is it just that he was just absolutely brilliant, or was he lucky? What would you say about him? Because not everybody can do what he did.
Okay. Well, I'll start with your last statement. I don't agree with your last statement that not everyone could do what he did. I will say that the potential to create at that level is available to us, whether or not the right things line up, whether or not our interest, energies, drive line up at the same time. That's a determinant. Again, we are assuming average intelligence at a minimum. Now, we know he had above average intelligence. He had above average energy level. He had a particular drive to learn, and I forget which of the zillion books I've read, but it went back and told you how he even though he had a privileged, affluent upbringing, well-educated environment, he also had a particular drive where, there weren't computers in the classrooms at the time when he was growing up. He found a way to get into the labs that had the computers and stay at them indefinitely. That's drive. And it's driven by his passion. He wasn't trying to please his parents. In fact, he was probably ticking a lot of people off along the way.
Right.
And that's the quality, that's the inspiration, the internal inspiration that we all hope to ignite within ourselves at some level.
Yeah.
Do we all do it? Sometimes, sometimes not. So many variables. What I will tell you is that the opportunity to create that spark exists in us all.
That's a great thing to know. Now, let's talk about your book, because your series is absolutely interesting and fascinating. And, you're considered the success catalyst known as Dr. Success. Love that term, Dr. Success.
Thank you.
And you're the founder, the curator, and author of Don't Die, Self-Development Collection of Books. And your latest book is Don't Die, Waiting to Be Brave. So let's talk about Don't Die, Waiting to Be Brave.
Thank you. Yes, I'm very proud of this. Let me explain just a little bit about the Don't Die collection of books. They're they were designed from the very first one, which people can get for free now on my website, servingsuccess.com. They can go in and just download the very first one. I wanted to design a book that could be read in 45 minutes, that was a true story, that showed how you process through both high points and defeats and came out the other end. Mm-hmm. So the very first book was Don't Die with Vacation Time on the Books. The second one was Don't Die with Your Song Unsung, which I did with a magnificent person by the name of Gary Russo, who was on your show at one point with me. And then this one is Don't Die Waiting to Be Brave, which I decided to turn my own model on myself. And it is a very simple model that has 4 segments to it, or 4 statements, that if you work through these statements in any problem that you have in life, and you ask the questions, what do I need to be aware of? Am I making excuses instead of achieving a goal? Is something continually happening that I'm being called to learn? And at this moment, again, I guess I'm having all of these little moments of ways that when I'm talking, I'm forgetting the last one that I want to tell you.
Not a problem.
Right, and trust me, it will come as I speak. But with these 4 statements, what I do is just ask you to ask yourself those questions, and by examining where you are at any given moment, you can start to break down what's getting you stuck. So Don't Die Waiting to Be Brave is an invitation for you to actually look at your life from moments of spontaneous bravery for the sole reason of building a new perspective that, many times in your life you really think, Susan, when you stepped out and started this show.
Right.
There isn't, it's not something that when you do it, there is a guarantee of success. And over the course of time, you have built a complete following, a consistent delivery of the quality of the people that you attract into the conversation. And you are a perfect example of the one question that that slipped my mind momentarily, and that is, were you able to turn an experience that you had into something that you may not have wanted, but that you learned from and grounded your next success?
I'll tell you something, Andrea. Well, go ahead. Finish that statement.
No, I was just going to say that one is, the adage is experience is what you get when you don't get what you want.
Right.
Well, I say only momentarily. The moment that you transform the experience into a learning that seeds your next step, it is no longer something that you shouldn't have wanted.
Ah, very interesting. Now, I'm going to tell you, I interviewed Tova Feldshuh. For our audience, I'd like you to know who Tova is. Tova is an actor, and she has been in. She did Broadway. She played Golda Meir on Broadway. She's in Dying Dead or something of that nature, and Law and Order. Now, Tova said to me, Andrea, she said, I may not be so young anymore, but I know that life is short. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to climb Mount Kilimanjaro, and then I'm going to travel around the world and meet all the people that I feel I need to know. And I'm going to do shows. I'm going to write plays. I'm going to do all this. And you know what, Andrea? She's done it. And her attitude is fabulous. Now, some people have a great attitude. Their glasses half full, okay? And some people, their glasses less than that. But how do you develop an attitude when you see so many things going wrong in this world? Just let's finish up on the show. If you were to give some of your thoughts to what you want to say to the people in our audience, what would be the last word?
Okay. Last word would be the process of continually improving never ends. resilience is actually the qualifier that gets you to the finish line. It is not that things don't go wrong. It is that no matter how many times they go wrong, you are able to transform it.
Those are really sound words, good words. Now, again, tell them how they get your book and give them your website and all the things that you want people to know about you.
Well, thank you for that opportunity. So my website is really simple, and there's a ton of free things on it, starting with the very first book, Don't Die with Vacation Time on the Books. And it is serving, SERVING, success, SUCCESS.com. My newest book, and also Don't Die Unsung, so Don't Die Waiting to Be Brave and Don't Die with Your Song Unsung can be gotten on Amazon, and Don't Die Waiting to Be Brave can also be gotten at Barnes & Noble and on the Barnes & Noble website. And it's very easy to get in touch with me at Dr. Success, DRSUCCESS, at servingsuccess.com.
There you go. Well, today my guest has been Andrea Goeglein. Now, Andrea is a very, very special person, as I said at the beginning of the show, and she has a lot to offer, and her books are great. So I want everybody in our audience to get on her website and take a look at what she has to offer. I think you'll be very pleased. So thank you so very much for being on the Susan Brender Show, Andrea Goeglein.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to The Susan Brender Show. To be a guest, email sebrender@yahoo.com.